Well, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Jim Hodson here at the Fort Worth Aviation Museum, home to the most touchable warbirds in Texas. Here with Gary Goff and with Kevin Nelson. Kevin is one of our volunteers here, and we're going to do a volunteer spotlight today. And so, Kevin, tell everybody a little bit about your background.
Well, I spent 37 and a half years in active duty Air Force and Air Force Reserve. Retired 4 years ago. My primary duty was non-destructive inspection, which is completely opposite of what I do here. Yeah. And I started coming out here probably about 7 or 8 years ago.
Okay. And what brought you out here?
Well, I come out here to visit a couple of times and then heard about volunteers, so come out. I've been out here ever since.
Okay. And what kind of things do you do here? You work with the restoration?
I primarily do work with restoration, paint removal, things of that nature, getting the aircraft or whatever we're working on prep for paint.
Okay. And what does it mean to you to be out here working with all these old airplanes?
History.
History? Okay.
I said what's out here, I haven't worked on really anything to speak of. F4 would be the closest thing I've
F4s? Okay.
Worked on that we have out here. And I say I just enjoy coming out here.
Okay. What airplanes did you work on?
F-105s, Gs, F-4Es, Gs, C-130s, B-52s, KC-135, B-1Bs. I went back to F-16 Cs and Ds, and I finished up on F-16 Cs and Ds.
Okay, now was that in the reserves here?
That was in the reserves here locally.
Okay, okay. So good. So what would you tell anybody that might be thinking about getting into a career in aviation?
It's enjoyable. You got to have a passion for it.
Okay. Where did your passion come from?
Probably the first time I stepped on a commercial aircraft.
Okay.
And talking to the Air Force recruiter, talked to the Army recruiter and didn't impress me. Air Force recruiter got my attention, so that's where it all started.
Okay.
42 years ago.
Okay. So it was when you were a kid, essentially.
Essentially.
Okay. And so you just kind of were inspired then and kept that with you and then made a career out of it.
Yeah. It's pretty much what I did.
Okay. And were you satisfied with the career? I mean, would you recommend the military to somebody now who's looking at getting into aviation?
I would.
Okay.
Just like anything else, you have to put up with things. You have to learn to deal with things that you may not like in order to make it.
Yeah. Well, I used to always say it was desire, dedication, and determination. If you wanted to get it done, it's going to take the 3 Ds to get you there.
Yeah.
So. Well, good. Kevin, I appreciate you spending a little time with us. And
can I ask you a question before you leave?
Yeah, go right ahead.
How did you get into the idea of stripping paint off of an airplane? That sounds crazy. So you sandblasted all this stuff.
Media blast, soda blast.
Dude, awesome.
Well, somebody has to do it.
Awesome.
Jason, you're up. Okay, thanks, Kevin. Appreciate it.
Kevin.
All right.
We're here today doing one of our monthly gaggles, we call it. It's get together with the volunteers and do lunch and disseminate information and recognize people for their time and service here. Jason, introduce yourself.
Hello, my name's Jason Harris. Just recently started volunteering here for the restoration of the Aviate-A Harrier.
And yeah, we're glad to have you. Tell everybody a little bit about your background.
I was in the Marine Corps for 10 years, Aviate-B Harrier, aviation mech, and then I went to college, got out, went to college for non-destructive testing quality control. I've worked at several aircraft manufacturing facilities like Cessna, worked at Lockheed Martin on the F-35, F-16 program. I've worked for Bell for V-22 rotor boxes and Hueys.
So what do you like about working around airplanes?
I just love aircraft. Ever since I was a little kid, I always, saw them go through the air, and I was always wanted to be part of doing something on aircraft, whether it's flying or working.
Why did you decide to go into the Marine Corps to do that?
I decided, the Marine Corps is the best. I mean, and I found out they had an air wing, so I figured, that's the best place to be an aircraft mechanic.
Okay. And the Marine Corps trained you on all these different airplanes and things that you worked on, right?
Yes. So there was actually probably went to school for probably about a year and a half, preliminary school and then aircraft specific school.
So what did you like the most about the Harrier? What intrigued you about that airplane?
Well, it's the only aircraft that can hover. Well, now that the F-35B
Yeah.
is around, I guess it's the second. It's the original aircraft that hovered.
Right. So you guys must have done some pretty interesting things with that. Did you ever go on the float with the airplane or deploy with it?
We went on. I went on the Tarawa, which is a smaller LHA type aircraft carrier. I've been on there, and then I've been overseas. We went to Japan, went to Rota, Spain. I've been all over, and I was over for Iraqi Freeman for the war.
Well, thanks for your service on all
you.
of that. Now, what specifically did you do in the Harrier squadrons?
I was a Aviate-B Harrier hydraulics and metalsmith.
Okay.
And I did corrosion control.
Okay,
also.
good.
When you say metalsmith, what does that mean? To be a metalsmith?
Metalsmith is you can bend metal to make patches for the aircraft, refit doors. I was also in charge of. We also worked on all of the flight control systems on the aircraft, landing gear systems. Pretty much the whole body of the aircraft. That's what airframers
Okay,
do.
now did you work on A models at all?
Never worked on an A model. This
Okay.
is my first.
This is your first A model.
Yeah.
What are the basic differences between the A and the B?
The A model is mainly all aluminum. It's
Okay.
all aluminum, whereas on the B model, the whole wing box is mostly composite, carbon fiber composite, and it's a lot beefier aircraft. The B model is. They took the lessons they learned from the A model and improved it a lot.
Well, I know I was with VMO2 when the Harriers first came out, and the thing was always it can carry bombs or gas, but it can't carry both.
Right.
So the B model kind of took advantage of that and tried to beef it up a little bit.
Oh yeah,
so.
it was beefed up a lot more. It could actually carry bombs and gas.
Okay. So why are you here with us?
Because I've always loved the Harrier, and I heard that you guys were getting one, so I was like, well, I want to be a part of helping restore one. And it's with all my knowledge with aircraft, I feel that some of the knowledge and history of our aircraft needs to be passed on to future generations.
I appreciate that, and we're glad to have you here. We're kind of constituting a new group of people with the Harrier, as well as with the Mohawk. So Jason, thanks a lot. I appreciate it, and let's see who else we can find to
ask him
talk to.
another
Yeah,
question?
go right
Okay.
ahead.
Jason, okay, what's the biggest thing you're going to have to overcome to put the wing back on the jet?
Putting the wing, is getting something that can lift it correctly so that we can maneuver it and position it correctly to put it back down on the aircraft.
And you're going to have to move the wing, not the fuselage.
Right.
You're going to move the wing to fit wherever it needs to go to get onto the bird, right?
Correct. The fuselage will stay stationary, and we will lift the wing up and move it and put it back onto the aircraft.
Cool, thanks.
Okay. Let's see. We need to grab somebody else here. Steve.
Steve,
Come on over.
here. Yes, you look pretty. Come on, Steve.
You're going to answer questions. Okay. So this is Steve Dumivich, and Steve, just introduce yourself to the folks.
Hi, Steve Dumivich here, and I've been a docent with the museum since, I believe, 2013.
About that, yeah. And what is your experience with airplanes before that?
Prior to that, I was in the Marine Corps from 1964 until 1970, and then reserve time from 1978 until 1980. I was with the A6 Intruder program originally, and out at Cherry Point, tour in Vietnam, a couple of trips out to Yuma, Arizona, and with the helicopters, I was up in Great Lakes. I'm actually at Glenview Naval Air Station.
Okay, what helicopters did we have there?
UH-1s.
Oh, okay, okay, good. And so then after your Marine Corps time, what did you do after that?
After that, when I got out of the Marine Corps in 1970, about a year later, was in the private sector for a little while, and then after that I went into the fire service and did 31 years up in the Chicagoland area.
Okay.
As a firefighter, and retired as a fire chief out of Wilmette, Illinois.
And what brought you here to the museum?
I retired from my retirement job.
Okay.
Where I worked for FEMA for several years, which is a story all in its own.
Sure.
But I ended up meeting Jim, meeting you over at a gun show.
That's right.
In Dallas, Fort Worth, and I just wanted something to do as a kind of a fun project for my retirement. So this happened to be it. It certainly has lived up to what I expected.
What do you enjoy about being out here?
Oh, I enjoy the people. People are great. Both the visitors and the docents. I've learned so much from some of the other docents. Like Bob was saying just a moment ago that Buster is just a wealth of information.
Oh, he really is.
God,
yeah.
The guy is one of the most knowledgeable people about airplanes I've ever met. And really enjoy talking to him every opportunity I get.
Well, and you've done some of the road trips with us too, haven't
Yes,
you?
I have. I did one road trip several years ago when we picked up the CH-53 helicopter in Pensacola, and I just recently came back from a trip out to Miramar where we picked up. We didn't pick up the Harrier, but we did some of the disassembly on it. But we also brought back a couple of simulators. An RF-8 simulator and also an F-18 simulator.
And you brought ordnance back, or ordnance tubes again.
Yeah, we brought some.
Now you did that from Pensacola, and didn't you have an encounter with the police officer?
Yeah, that was interesting. I had a whole trailer full of snake eye fins, and I pulled into a gas station near my house and to gas up, and there was a police officer filling up his car, and he said, "Are those what I think they are?" And I said, if they're snake eye, if you think they're snake eye fins, you're absolutely right. And he said, "What are you doing with those?" So I told him I was taking them out to the museum. So it's kind of an interesting encounter.
Yeah, it was. So anything else you'd like to tell people about being out here?
Oh, come on out. It's a great experience. We kind of tailor our when we escort somebody through the museum here, we kind of tailor it to the group. If it's people who have a lot of aviation experience, and sometimes these guys will surprise you. Guys and gals will surprise you. I was doing a walkthrough once, and after walking through about 10 minutes of the conversation, I asked the gentleman what he did in aviation, and turned out he was an SR-71 pilot.
Wow.
So,
wow.
I was just absolutely overwhelmed with that, and I let him conduct the rest of the tour.
Yeah, we meet a lot of different kinds of people that come out here.
And it's really a lot of fun, and you tailor it to not only the older folks, you tailor it to the kids, you tailor it to the little ones. Having experience giving tours to the little ones, at the fire station, they just want to run around and see the airplanes. And,
right.
It's a pretty easy conversation with them.
Yeah, it is. It always is.
I just always tell them, just watch your head. We've got a first aid kit that's about that big, and there's a lot of sharp edges. So just be careful out here.
Well, thanks, Steve. I appreciate you spending a little time with it.
Thank you
bet.
for talking to me.
Okay, let's see if we can find somebody else we can corner here. Ken.
Yes.
We're going to interview you here a little bit.
What are you going to interview me about?
We're going to ask you some questions.
Okay. 22 trucks.
Introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Ken Henson.
Look, right, Gary's got the camera, so.
I wasn't. Okay.
Yeah, I don't.
My name is Ken Henson. So I am a volunteer docent here at the Fort Worth Aviation Museum. At one time, I was the token Army pilot. So, any questions that you have?
Well, I've got more questions for you. What brought you here to the museum?
Well, I had been a docent almost, trying to be near full time prior to a problem with my walk and my hip and my back.
I'm going to sit down with Ken.
Yeah, that makes it easier.
Yeah. So, give us some background about your aviation background.
Oh, let's see. I went to flight school in 65, 66 as a warrant officer candidate.
Okay.
Now, warrant officer candidate at that time was a relatively new program with the U.S. Army. And they were recruiting 18, 19, and 20-year-olds as opposed to senior NCOs.
Okay.
So a lot of the guys came straight from basic training and went to flight school out here at Fort Walters, Texas.
Now, the flight school, was that a full flight school, instrument ratings and all of that, or was it just basic aircraft operation?
Well, The basic program was at Fort Walters, Texas.
Okay.
And that's where you went into pre-solo, solo, and basic cross-country flight.
Okay.
And emergency procedures.
Okay.
From there, after graduation from that program, you went to Fort Rucker, Alabama for advanced training.
Okay.
Which is where you got, and at that time they did not provide full instrument training. You got what was called a tactical ticket.
Okay.
Which was just a training to be able to get the helicopter back on the ground as opposed to filing and flying cross-country.
Well, we used to say that there was a hole punched in the corner of those, and the card was blue, and if the sky didn't match the color of the card, that you didn't fly. So,
well, that was a special ticket.
that was the special ticket. Okay. So, what helicopters did you fly in the Army?
Oh heavens, I flew the H-13, the H-23, the H-21, the UH-1 A, B, C, D, H models, and the AH-1G.
Okay, what did you fly in Vietnam?
Flew Cobras in Vietnam.
Okay, okay.
So the Cobra at that time was a new aircraft into the system, and it was a little touchy. You had to fly it carefully. It was the only Army aircraft at that time you could actually get into a zero-G condition. If you did a very hard pushover in a Cobra at high speed, you could get into a zero-G or negative G condition. Now, due to the gyroscopic precession of the rotor system, what would happen is you'd go into an immediate and very violent snap roll to the right. Now, you did not want to get inverted in a Cobra because it had a teetering rotor system.
Okay.
And it was a better than even chance it would pop the rotor system completely off.
So it was a very maneuverable aircraft.
It was an extremely maneuverable aircraft. Like I said, you had to fly it carefully as opposed to throwing it around.
I noticed you've got the Purple Heart on your chest. Was that something that was awarded to you from Vietnam?
From Vietnam. Thing with the Cobra, I was with the I was first in the 9th 1st Cavalry Division. We were the Aero Scouts for the division.
Okay.
So our job for the 1st Cavalry Division was to go out and find and fix the enemy. In other words, we were like the younger brother to go out and pick a fight.
Okay.
Once we picked a fight, then they would call in the big brothers.
Well, it was kind of a forward air control mission.
Kind of, but we would
finding and fixing. That was part of the deal.
But we actually had infantry.
Yes.
So we had the scout aircraft, which were OH-6s, the Loaches.
Okay.
Then we had the Cobras, which supported and then we had lift aircraft, and there was a platoon of infantry, all under the command of a single person. So we were the smallest combined arms unit that existed.
So what brought you out here to the museum the first time?
Oh heavens! I'd heard about it. I got to go see it.
Okay. And what got you to stay with us and come back?
Basically the company and getting to hang around. It's like dealing with civilians. You can use a term, or you've been in a situation that they totally don't understand.
Right.
If I'm sitting with the husbands of my wife's girlfriends, and after the first 30 minutes of discussing grass, I kind of lose interest.
I get it. Okay. Okay.
Nobody else understands what we went through, whether you were Navy, Marine Corps, Army, or Air Force. It's a completely different situation. If you hadn't been there, you don't understand.
Right. No, I get that. And frankly, that's why a lot of folks come out here. It's the association with people from the military, whether you knew them or not. There's a kind of a common thread there and a kind of a common denominator that we all understand. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
What was your favorite helicopter?
Oh, I got to say the Cobra was my favorite helicopter.
Okay. So Ken, I appreciate you answering a few questions for us today. And for everybody else, this is the first gaggle that we've had in over a year. So it's been a little bit of a homecoming for some of our volunteers to be back today, and Ken's one of them. So we're glad to have him back. We're glad to have everybody back here to our little tribe. And so if you're interested in working with us at all, you can get in touch with us through the website, info@ftwaviation.com. And so from Gary Goff and Jim Hodson here at the Fort Worth Aviation Museum, and Ken Henson, home of the most touchable warbirds in Texas, we'd like to thank you for tuning in today, and we'll see you next week.
See ya.
Come out and hang out with us.